Why is there something rather than nothing?
Because nothing is really boring. Let's do this.
BionicDance's YouTube channel?
Greetings, fellow space travelers, BionicDance here. Normally I save my thank yous to the end of the video, but I have to start with this one. You'll see why in a moment. These are from John Sutherland, and he asked that I do an entire video wearing them. We'll see how that goes. If I'm suddenly not wearing them, it's because they got uncomfortable after the multiple hours it takes to make one of my videos. Now, I don't like to burn Jack, but I saw someone respond to this video, and I thought to myself, I can do better. And thus, my own response.
If I said, what am I holding in my hand, and I opened it, what might you say? Nothing. There's nothing in your hand, which is actually remarkably untrue. On top of the amount of cells that take place on the actual surface of my hand, the bacteria, there's air here, there's pockets, there's microbacteria, there's particles, there's probably dead skin, which is kind of gross.
I showed you this part because I agree with it in principle, and also because later he goes completely against the point he was making here about sloppy language.
If the universe then had a point at which it began, because before that there was nothing, so at one moment, everything that is inside of our space-time continuum, which means space, time, and matter, had a beginning, then we can ask the question, well, if everything started at a certain point, and everything that we observe in our universe that begins has a cause?
Sloppy language. When does something begin exactly? How do we identify the cause of something? Is all of existence not one long event unto itself to where finding the cause of anything would lead to a regress that could only end at the beginning of the universe or something like it? I realize I'm being pedantic here, but I have to be in order to be precise. The cause of me beginning to talk was from a signal in my brain, which is from other processes in my brain that reacted to various external stimuli, which happened because of something else, which happened because of multiple something else's, each of which happened because of even more something else's, until we get to a part of history where time has no meaning because space was so compressed by being a singularity that it also affected time. What we see as a series of distinct and often isolated events is really nothing of the kind. To compare any event now with the beginning of time itself is committing the same kind of category error as saying that there is nothing in your hand.
Our universe had a point at which it began, therefore our universe must have a cause.
Did our universe begin, though? I mean, did it? All we know is that our universe began to expand at some point. That's all we know. We do not know that it ever began to exist. We do not know where the matter and energy of the universe came from or whether it was eternal. After all, since compressing space compresses time, before may be a meaningless concept until after the Big Bang. In fact, I could probably end this video right now because that point undermines absolutely everything else he's going to say. But let's spin on, just for fun.
What thing that's transcendent, means bigger than the space-time continuum, would create everything so intricately and not have a purpose or a cause behind it?
So we've got ourselves an argument from incredulity and what sounded like a variation on the fine-tuning argument. I'll let my more science-oriented comrades in arms deal with the fine-tuning argument, and I'll tackle the argument from incredulity. So you can't imagine a universe like ours not being designed with a deliberate purpose, eh? Okay, for the sake of argument, pretend that there is a deity. How do you know the Big Bang wasn't a giant god fart and our universe is the tiny Hershey squirt that came along for the ride? We're talking about an all-powerful being here. You think he doesn't shit realities and piss quantum particles? How do you know he doesn't? You don't know. So stop talking like you do.
So a causal agent means that something or someone, we would call that a personal being, means that they can make person-like decisions. They are conscious, they can rationalize. Something personal created everything.
A notion which absolutely requires us to accept the premise that the universe was created just because it's complicated. Most atheists tend to think with their heads. Most theists seem to feel with their gut. And that's the problem. If I accepted the notion that being complicated requires being designed, which I admit intuitively feels right, then his reasoning makes sense. But I do not accept that notion, and there is no evidence-based reason to do so, and I don't care what your feelings are telling you.
So we say this very simply put this way. Everything that begins to exist has a cause of its existence. The universe began to exist, therefore the universe is a cause.
Again, sloppy language. Anything that begins to exist has a cause? Show me something that has begun to exist. Did this microphone begin to exist? Well, only if there was a time when matter and energy didn't exist. That's when the atoms which make up this microphone began to exist. When those atoms became a microphone, they didn't begin to exist, and neither did the mic. That which already existed was modified to be a microphone. Everything that is ever described as beginning to exist was actually only changed, much like how the matter and energy making up our universe changed from being a singularity. And we don't know whether that matter and energy ever began to exist, or whether it was always there. Much like saying that there's nothing in your hand and comparing that to the nothing of a pre-matter and energy state of reality, comparing the beginning of matter and energy to building a microphone is similarly bullshit.
The universe has a purpose. Purpose and cause always point to intelligence.
Purpose, yes. Cause, no. Purpose requires intention and thus intelligence, but a cause does not. It merely needs something to happen. And a rock succumbing to gravity and rolling down a hill never needed someone to order it to do so with an end goal in mind. And I challenge you to find a purpose to the universe, one which can be shown and not merely said.
So, all we have to do now is prove that the universe began to exist. Well, there's 3 different ways that the universe came to be.
He clearly meant that there are 3 possible ways the universe came to exist. He's also going to list the ones he disagrees with, and you can go see those for yourself, link in the description. But let's deal with the one he actually thinks is so, shall we?
So our third option is that the universe is contingent. A contingent being, or a contingent set, or a contingent something means it needs something for its existence. And that something can't be itself, right? If you asked me where did I come from, I could never say, I made myself.
What an interestingly specific analogy. I hate to call human conception Genesis, since that's a bit of a loaded term, but it's obvious he's using a creation event example in order to make it seem similar to the beginning of the universe. But if we're talking about the intentionality of an event, we need not confine ourselves to existence. Why does anything happen? Does anything ever happen without intentional action? Of course, nearly everything happens that way. So to point at making something as if it is a somehow special and uniquely different event from anything else that happens is clearly a not even slightly subtle attempt to bias our thinking.
Some people go, well, the universe made itself. That's impossible, because the universe would have to be there in order to make itself, and it wasn't there until after it made itself, so universes can't make themselves.
Unless it's a magical universe. You believe in a magical beardy man. Clearly you're open to the existence of the supernatural. So why not a supernatural universe that magically created itself? After all, the defining characteristic of magic is that it breaks the rules of what is an otherwise quite orderly effect-follows-cause universe. And if the universe is magical, then it could potentially be not bound by logic or causality, thus allowing it to create itself. Of course, the people who say the universe created itself are probably being just as sloppy with their language as this guy here. They probably just mean the change from singularity to the universe as we know today. Probably. It's kind of funny defending the notion that the universe created itself, cause that's not my position. But when someone says X is impossible and I totally see a way it could be possible, lock and load.
So what are we looking for? When you ask me where did I come from, what do I have to appeal to? A cause outside of myself. My cause would be my parents.
We're biological beings made up of matter and energy that are part of the universe, which runs pretty much automatically and without any apparent outside interference. We can talk about quantum physics some other time. And thus the cause of you is really existence itself and the nature of the universe. And what if one of your parents was not quite as willing to engage in coitus as the other? Your cause was only half intentional. And yet more than half of you exists. Well, I assume. We haven't seen you from the back yet. There are so many pitfalls and minefields in his reasoning here.
If I find a rock on the ground, the cause would be off the side of that mountain. Well, why is that mountain there? Well, that mountain sprang into existence when the original expansion of the universe happened.
Wait, what?
Well, that mountain sprang into existence when the original expansion of the universe happened.
Look, I realize he's speaking off the cuff, and it's easy to get kinda lost that way, but this one's a doozy. The universe is about 9 billion years older than the Earth. I think that mountain took a bit longer to be a thing than moment 1 of the Big Bang.
Well, what's outside of the universe?
We don't know. Nobody knows. I challenge you to show me anything that's outside the universe.
That must be powerful enough to create the universe.
How much power is required to create a universe? How much energy does it take to create, well, energy? Maybe it's quite trivial when not bound by the laws of our universe due to being outside of it. You don't know.
Ordered enough to sustain the universe.
Or the universe just has impersonal rules of physical behavior. The Big Bang was the sound of a starter pistol, and it's just been following the same pattern ever since. We can do it on computers, set up a simulation with certain characteristics, hit go, and just watch what happens, letting the computer extrapolate from our parameters to what will happen next, what will keep happening. And don't get it twisted. We build those programs after looking at reality, and our ability to create something complex does not imply at all that every complex thing needs a designer. So why would the universe need maintaining? Oh, sure, the heat death will eventually be a thing, so in a few gajillion years we might need some cosmic jumper cables, but physics seems to be running just fine without any help or maintenance.
And intelligent enough to put complexity in the universe.
Complexity does not need to come from complexity. Indeed, we can get great complexity from relative simplicity. Just look at the Fibonacci sequence and fractals. The universe as a whole is more complicated, but the principle is the same. Complexity is not the beginning, but rather the result. And maybe I gave this guy too much credit, and he really does think mountains sprang into existence at the Big Bang. Is he a creationist? A young earther?
When we find something that has the power to create worlds, has power to create everything that we know, we would consider that thing the most powerful being ever, which is what we all kind of mean when we say God.
Well, be sure to let us know if you find anything. You know, something we can detect. Right, on to the thank yous. As I said, I need to give thanks to John Sutherland for these. I've been putting together some cyberpunk cosplay, and while I'm pretty sure these are Cyclopses from the X-Men, well, they kind of look cyberpunky now, don't they? I also have to thank him for the Ghostbusters remastered game for the Switch. It looks really cool, and it's got the original cast in it, so thank you. I also have to thank Vonrick for sending me a 12-pack of these. Now, I'm not entirely certain where this drink comes from, but it's clearly Canadian. It had been literally decades, so when I found out that you can get this stuff again, I loved the crap out of it back in college, and I'm so glad to have it again. So I really do have to thank Vonrick. Thank you. Both you and John Sutherland in the last couple of months have sent me like hundreds of dollars worth of crapola off of my wish list. I'm tempted to add something huge worth thousands of bucks just to test the limits, but regardless, I am very grateful for your generosity. You have no idea. So until next time, fellow space travelers, this is BionicDance saying don't run on automatic. Instead, please think. To where finding the cause of something would lead to the... And I challenge you to find a purpose to the universe, one which can be thrown and knobaflagged. Just look at a blah 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 blah. Captain's log. We are investigating an asteroid field where we've had reports of strange signals. So far we've found nothing, but our reconnaissance continues.
Captain, unidentified object approaching.
Scan object.
Aye, scanning object.
Captain, the object appears to be bombarding us with Patreon particles.
Is there any damage?
None. In fact, it seems to be giving us even more strength.
Fascinating. It seems that Patreon beams are a benefit to our mission. We must seek out more Patreonic life forms. Plot course and prepare to engage Bionic Drive. Well, whoever that is, she's gotta get by us. Go get her, Sandra! Schmoozer the Schmoozerian? Good evening. As a duly designated representative of the YouTube channel BionicDance, I order you to cease any and all trolling activity and return forthwith to your website of origin or to the nearest convenient intranet site.
That ought to do it. Thanks very much, Sandra.
Do you believe in God?
No?
Then subscribe!
Sandra, when someone asks you if you believe in God, you say, wait, actually you got that right. Never mind.